Welcome to Ironman 70.3 Western Australia Asia Pacific Championship in Busselton. This marks the 18th and penultimate stop of the Ironman Pro Series inaugural season. There's 2,500 points up for grabs and will be awarded to the Pro Men's and Women's winner, which could certainly set things up for a tight final standings race in a few weeks' time. And it's a beautiful day in Busselton.
It is 5 a.m. in the morning down in Western Australia in Geograph Bay. We've got some beautiful shots of the Busselton Jetty. I think it's one of the longest wooden jetties in the Southern Hemisphere. The athletes don't get the pleasure of swimming around it this year like they used to, but they will get to go under that jetty. We are seeing the athletes about half an hour away from race start this morning.
Yeah, it's things are starting to heat up a little bit out there with the athletes getting those final things done for their preparation for a big race day out here today. And again, one of the strongest professional fields we've had on the men's and women's side here. We see Mark Dubrick on the screen there, getting ready to get in that water and show us how fast of a swimmer the shark actually is.
Yeah, hopefully that's the only shark in the water.
There we go. He will be. I'm Matt Lieto with Laura Siddall. Welcome to the studio where we're going to be bringing you all the action from Busselton and Western Australia. Sid, it's going to be a good one.
It is. I'm really excited because we've got, obviously, it's like you said, it's the penultimate race before the VinFast Ironman World 70.3 World Championships in Towport in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But we've also got athletes vying for points for the Pro Series, warming up for the 70.3 World Championships. And then I'm also excited because we've got a few names in there that are coming off the back of sort of the Olympic distance, the Olympics, World Triathlon Series that are having their first hit out at a 70.3.
Yeah, a lot of different sub-stories certainly out on course today. And speaking of course, let's go see where the athletes are going to be kind of cruising around today. And they're going to make this race out.
So we've got a swim, obviously a 1.9 kilometre, 1.2 miles swim on a beach start, and we go underneath that Busselton Jetty. It's just a one-lap swim. It stays close to the shoreline, so it should be pretty protected, less exposed to the ocean conditions as the athletes come back and join at the beach and run into T1.
Yeah, in T1, obviously, they'll take their time. Pretty long run out of the swim to get to the full gas bike course. It's 90 kilometers, 56 miles, and just a one-lapper out here today. And it's a fast and flat course. It starts by heading out along the coast initially before entering the spectacular Twart Forest. There's great views of both the coast and the brushland to keep the athlete's mind occupied, as well as some highlights or some wildlife to keep their eyes cut out for, and a bunch of turnarounds for athletes to be able to kind of see where the action is.
That's right, and then the athletes are going to head out onto their two-lap Hoka run course, so 21.1 kilometers, 13.1 miles. Again, another flat and fast out and back course, mainly along the shoreline of Geograph Bay, past the Busselton Jetty. There is lots of cafes, restaurants, lots of opportunities for spectators before they get that chance to turn onto that finish line carpet and see the finish arch.
Just 8 minutes till we get going.
That's right, not very far away now. You see the countdown. The athletes are, I think that's the age group athletes warming up. Some of the pros will be lining up ready to start. Looks pretty nice morning down there. It's an early start. It's 5:30, so pretty light. I forget how light it is at 5:30 in the morning over in WA. And we've got our weather. There we go, weather up. It's 16 degrees Celsius, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Pretty overcast clouds. A little bit of wind, 13 kilometers an hour. Humidity, 84%, and that water temperature of 19 degrees C or 66.2 degrees Fahrenheit for our American friends.
We always need a little extra help. But yeah, beautiful Roca swim course today, and this is an awesome shot of it. And generally, I would think this would be a fast swim, and it will be because of the caliber of athletes we have. But it is going to, if we can see texture from above, certainly as we get a little bit closer to the water level, you can see it's pretty bumpy, and this is still several feet above the water level. So I think for these athletes, there's going to be plenty of texture and challenge to allow the better swimmers like a Mark Dubrick to try to break things up and spread things out there. And these are the cap colors that we have available to get a quick look at the athletes. And, we can see some of these great swimmers, Burt Whistle, Noble, Riddle are certainly going to be some of those athletes pushing that pace.
Yeah, you can see Jamie Riddle in the middle in that purple cap. We've got obviously Gregory Barnaby in the blue cap. I think, as you said, Jake Burt Whistle, fairly unknown over the 70.3 distance, just moving up from World Triathlon in the Olympic distance. So I think he's going to be a key factor, particularly in the swim with Mark Dubrick and Jamie Riddle, but potentially by the end of the race and the finish line as well. And on the women's side, our colour cap, so Maya Sage-Nelson with that blue cap, Lottie Wilms in the pink, Hannah Berry. They're going to be our key swimmers. I think Reagan Hollyoak in the purple as well. And I think a couple ones, Teresa Adam from New Zealand down there in the green cap. She's a very good swimmer. And also Valerie Bartholomew from Belgium in a purple cap. I think they're going to be leading the way in the swim on the women's side.
Yeah, and haven't seen much from Teresa Adam recently. I haven't personally, but so I'm excited to call a race with her in it. But she's always puts herself somewhere where we get to talk about her.
Yeah, she's had a quite few years. She was sort of dominant in that 2018, 2019. She was winning Cairns in New Zealand, and I think she was sort of number 1 ranked in the world at that point. But then sort of through COVID, struggled with injury and things, and so has had a couple of races over the past few years, but has been fairly sporadic, I would say. She did race Melbourne a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it's great to see her here, and she'll be at the front of the swim and the bike. Yeah,
they are getting there, and you can see, pretty deep field. We can see the athletes, don't have any designated start areas. So, it's a tactical, decision as to where you're going to line up. We can see a lot of the athletes obviously lining up very far left because that's technically the shorter line. That's also the line where you're going to turn
left and you're going to get
smashed. Yeah, you're guaranteed to be in a bar brawl a few hundred meters in. So we see some of the athletes maybe that are more confident in their takeout speed going on the outside. Yes, technically they'll have to swim a little bit longer, but a little less of a kind of crux move on that first corner.
Yeah, it's not very far. It's only like 300 meters to that first turn buoy, which is a left-hand turn. So I don't know, does that give, with the caliber of these athletes, is that a long enough stretch to get some space, or are we going to see sort of carnage at that first turn buoy?
Oh, it's going to be carnage for sure. Especially, everything that you just said, totally correct. And that pace will be diabolical going into that first corner, especially with, as you said, some of the talent that we have down under, specifically in the swim. Just a culture of being able to get in the water and start swimming fast from a beach start is pretty legendary down this way.
Yeah, that's right. So, the likes of, we've got Mark Dubrick, Jamie Riddle, Jake Burt Whistle, all very good swimmers coming up from that shorter distance. I think Akenji Nina, he's an interesting one. His first 70.3 distance race, having raced over the Olympic distance and was in Paris and then Super Tri. So it's really, he's going to be at the front of the swim as well.
Just a few seconds now. We can see the athletes getting down and crouched, ready to go. They've gotten the word that they're within about 30 seconds of the start here. So we see the athletes here about 10 seconds out, lined up. Beautiful overhead shot as our race here at Ironman 70.3 Western Australia Asia Pacific Championship is about to go off, and we will get stuck in for about 4 hours or so.
3.5.
And there you go. Men are off. See the big high step, and we see that Dubrick going far right, getting that real high step. You got to get those knees loose and try to get up as much as possible. And you can see the athletes,
Sliss already,
Laura, that have taken time to preview this course and know that if they go right, they start swimming sooner. If they go left, they're going to be running longer. Some athletes are better at that kind of beach run and can get an advantage, and some athletes just want to start swimming and get in their stroke cycle. And again, as we said, maybe try to separate things until or before they get to that 300 meters, so it's not that full-on bar brawl when they get to that first turn.
Yeah, and that's really important when the athletes get the chance to warm up pre-swim and they can run into the ocean. Obviously, if they've got there a few days before as well, they can practice their swim starts just to work out where the best position is and how far they need to do that run before they go into dolphin dives. So we have our men underway. They're heading out to the first turn buoy, and we will catch up with the rest of the action on the swim when we come back after this break.
Welcome back to Ironman 70.3 Western Australia, and the men are off, and we can see the swim separated there a little bit, but now looks like, Laura, it's kind of, one kind of V at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely choppy out there, though. You could get the overhead views. You could see the boats bouncing around, and even like now, the view from the water, there's definitely a fair bit of chop, which means that the athletes might need to have a bit of a higher turnover or bit of get their arms higher out the water to make sure they avoid the waves as they're coming up to that first left-hand turn buoy, and they're going to head under the jetty, heading back to the beach. Quick shot there was the women, but there's the turn buoy.
And that's what we want to see there is that that turn and kind of that brutality there. And we have that cap. It looks like, you're going to confirm for me, but I believe that is Dubrick. Pushing that pace there. We got a green cap chasing. Look at that absolute washing machine.
I think that's Jamie Riddle,
is
actually,
Riddle?
in the purple cap. The other one would be Caleb Noble, but I think that's likely to be Riddle in the purple cap leading the way.
That is the definition of a washing machine. Obviously, the course and the Geograph Bay is providing just gnarly conditions right now, but also those athletes going around that corner, that is as bad as it gets. And Laura, tell us about how, like, swimming as hard as you can to start a 3.5, 4 hour race for these elite professionals is challenging enough. Why is it so much harder when it's that rough and you're getting beat up and Riddle's like, hey, is anybody coming with me?
Did you see that? Yeah.
Backstroke?
Just putting the guy in the lead, like just turning onto his back just to see who was on his feet, which is likely to be Mark Dubrick on his feet in that green cap. Yeah, I mean, when it's just so much more effort when it's chopped like this, particularly if you are not a strong swimmer. So, in that smooth, flat conditions, sort of swimming pool like, those weaker swimmers or not as strong swimmers might be able to jump on the back of the feet. It's a lot harder when it is chop. It's a lot more effort to keep your turnover, to get your arms out of the water, to get that catch in the water as the water's moving around all over. And you're getting bounced all over the place. You just can't breathe. No, and you just can't,
somebody's hitting you and you're getting a mouthful of water, and so you're already fully anaerobic. And there we go. The women are off and in. We can see the tactics look like more of the women all kind of going in that left zone. Less numbers, so not as much risk of getting piled up, but still see some athletes choose kind of that right side. And Laura, as we were talking about, the smart athlete, when I have athletes that are going out and doing a race that's a beach start, they'll actually have them walk around for like 20 minutes to see how the sand changes. And we can see the smart athletes that really want to take advantage really know where the undulations begin.
Yeah, that's right. Like practicing that run in the days before, or even the morning if you get a chance to go in, is definitely key. I think the other thing, when you get conditions like this with a lot of chop, this is where, if it depends what side of breathing you are used to. And this is where all those triathletes who probably hate their swim coaches that tell them to practice breathing on both sides, so breathe to the left and breathe to the right, this is where it comes into benefit. Because if you breathe to the right, like I prefer to do, when you are going to turn, when these athletes are going to turn left, they're going to have that swell coming straight into their face, straight into their mouth. So if you're okay with breathing to the other side, so you can protect your face, protect your breathing, have a bit more breathing, not swallow as much water, that definitely helps. So kids practice your breathing on both sides.
And I think it's important because this is kind of a pet peeve of mine. A lot of coaches or people are told to breathe every third stroke. And that's great in practice so that you learn to breathe on both sides, but you should learn how to breathe efficiently on both sides so you can breathe every stroke on the left and every stroke on the right. Because as we were just talking about, swimming is...
I'm all about getting as much oxygen in as possible.
It's the only sport that we do where you're forced to hold your breath, and to limit it even a little bit more is a challenge. But as you said, if you're breathing left and the wave's on you, you can go to the right and get that kind of open air. And sometimes if you're breathing the other side, it's actually... when it's choppy, you're more efficient at not getting water in because of kind of the gaps that those waves will make. If you can breathe effectively on the right side, it's actually easier to not get interrupted in your breath.
That's it. And obviously, like me being such a good swimmer and swimmer expert.
That's what I was going to say,
I can comment on this. Like, that bilateral breathing that you do, great to do in the pool as those drills. Like, it really does balance your stroke, and you can see where you do have an imbalance. But with you, practice breathing every stroke on the left, every stroke on the right, so you can be comfortable. Obviously, we're all going to have a preference, but you can be comfortable and change if you need to. And also, these sort of conditions is also where you go into that hypoxic work of like holding your breath underwater or holding your breath for breathing every 5, breathing every 7, because if you get a mouthful of water or like going around that turn buoy, it's just a washing machine. If you don't panic, you can hold your breath a bit longer, take a breath and carry on your swimming, and it doesn't disrupt it too much.
Yeah, for sure. And as we can see on screen now, it's starting to separate a little bit. We have 2 athletes a little behind that front of the group, but taking that shorter line in left. And then we can see athletes heading into that turn buoy now, but we're going to take a quick break and get right back at it.
Men are 10 minutes in, women started 5 minutes behind as they have gone around that first turn buoy and now going parallel to the shore. I think this is the women, and I believe that would be Lottie Wilms in the pink cap in the lead, and I would imagine that's Teresa Adam in the green cap on her feet. So 2 of the fastest, our best swimmers in the sport leading out this race so far.
Yeah, definitely spreading things out, and that experience of swimming maybe in these conditions. I know Lottie spent a lot of time, practicing this craft. It really is a craft. And we're back to the men's front of the race. And again, it looks like that swim leader at this point is Caleb Noble, who has been so far today. And it looked like Mark Dubrick from the United States behind him. And again, really pushing this. And I'm
going to say it's Jamie Riddle.
Is it Jamie Riddle?
But I'm not sure. I think he's more likely to be it could be. I mean, Caleb's a good swimmer. They're both in purple caps.
Yep.
I think it would be Jamie Riddle with Mark Dubrick on his feet.
Almost on his feet.
Yeah, almost on his feet. He needs to, a couple of strong strokes to get back there.
No, but you're right. That is not Riddle there. So yeah, those athletes spreading out. And again, this race and this course, we thought it would be pretty tight as far as the swim goes, and it still will be, but this will be a significant gap for these 2 athletes, at least for the main contenders in this race. There's certainly going to be more athletes, 1s and 2s on there, but if it ends up not being a huge gap, there will be a lot of energy spent to have had that effort to get there. So when they get in transition and the bike starts and those athletes on the front put the effort in, it will then it'll stretch out and the elastic will snap. So regardless of whether or not these gaps are huge right at the swim exit, this will impact the early sections of the bike, no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. And Riddle just taking the opportunity, I should say, to look behind him to see who's there on his feet. We said he's got a couple of athletes. There's one just coming up now alongside Mark Dubrick, and looking back, trying to spot those other swim caps. Now, the other thing about when the water's this choppy is that often you go to do a stroke and then the water kind of disappears underneath you as you come off the top of a wave and stuff. So it really can be disruptive to your stroke and to your rhythm. You can see the athletes sort of getting bounced around all over the place.
Yeah, we can see the athletes there.
And there's Gregory Barnaby sitting in 4th position.
That silver-capped athlete saw Mark Dubrick letting the gap open to Riddle. So he put a significant effort. If you're going around Mark Dubrick at that pace, you are swimming fast. So that athlete in that silver cap wants to make sure he doesn't lose the feet of Riddle, or gets back on the feet rather of Riddle. And then, as you said, Barnaby in a great position. Not surprising to see him at the front, but to be 4th in these conditions right now with the caliber of swimmers in this field, I am impressed by.
Yeah, that's right. And Mark will be quite happy if that athletes come round and hopefully can bridge back up, can pull him back up to being in touch with Riddle at the front. Jamie Riddle from South Africa, he's got a short course background. He raced at the Olympics in Paris this year, and then he's been moving up, doing a few of the longer distances. He raced at 70.3 Melbourne a couple of weeks ago, and I think led out the swim and led for a lot of the bike. Unfortunately, had a DNF in that race, so I'm sure we'll be wanting to sort of get a finish on his first 70.3
and
distance.
Again, and I just want to continue to nail this down for people that haven't necessarily maybe watched many of these races live, and we can see Riddle still looking over his shoulder to see what he's doing to the group. Not much reason to be doing that, but back on my point, and maybe it is actually that we have a turn buoy. He's going to see if he needs to put another effort in to break things up. But what I was going to say is this swim course is as rough as it gets for a 70.3. This is as hard as it gets. So not only do these athletes have to try to race the best athletes in the world, they have to deal with these conditions. And there's so many athletes that have specific ability by practicing in these conditions that will compensate maybe for athletes that just maybe are stronger swimmers. Like Mark Dubrick is actually struggling a little bit here because he's not someone that's spent his whole life swimming
I would say it definitely favors the Australian athletes.
Yep.
I'm saying that stereotypically in sweeping statement, the Australian athletes tend to grow up swimming in the surf. The European athletes, not so much.
On this flat, fast course with all these out and backs, really could have a large male front group for a period of time. I know there's a lot of gun cyclists in this race that won't be afraid to go to the front and go as hard as possible to maybe sacrifice to break it up. So we'll have some action, but there's going to be a lot of movement early on.
Yeah, and like the bike course that it is, you know, as the athletes, we see them take their final turn and they head back in towards the shoreline. With it being so flat, there are about 5 180-degree turns, but it is out and back. The athletes are going to get good sighting on where everyone else is. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of hard riding. Flat and fast does not necessarily make it easy for the riders because it's sort of full gas from the start, and they're on the aero bars.
Yeah, full gas on the full gas bike course.
Yeah.
And you know what's going to be interesting is this group of 5, I believe 5 or 6, it looks like at the front is going to have. Looks like maybe 40 seconds on a couple chasers, and then I'd say around a minute on that chase group, maybe 75 seconds, is whether or not they get on the pace and there's somebody in this group of 5 that wants to make a name and really put an effort in, because that is a big group, and it might be closer to 90 seconds looking at it right now. But if they stay on that pace, they might be able to stay away long enough that the group and kind of the dynamic will be established from that large group ahead, and you might, or behind, and might see 1s and 2s come across, and then it could change the dynamics of this race, and at least they can settle into their pace before that group catches and be less likely to get dropped early, as we see these athletes, Riddle and Dubrick, dolphin dive in high step. Dubrick wants that first out of the water bonus, so he's going to run across that timing mat, and then so it's going to be Mark Dubrick first out of the water after Jamie Riddle led for most of the day, kind of messing around a little bit with some of the pace setting early.
I think Jamie would be a bit gutted. I don't know, maybe he doesn't have a bonus for first out of the water. A lot of athletes have, a lot of those good swimmers have a bonus from their sponsors for being first out of the water. So yeah, Mark Dubrick certainly took advantage of that. I think also this front pack of 5, with there being a smaller group of them, it's easier for them to get their spacing on the road, on the flat course, whereas we saw that chase group was pretty much the whole field. It's going to be really difficult for them to kind of get their 12 meters, make sure they're all sat at the right distance. We have got Race Ranger on course today, which obviously will help the athletes with the lights, as we see Gregory Barnaby. That blue cap running into transition, as then the rest of that's a Jake Birtwistle in the pink cap coming out there, moving up from the short course distance as well. But from Australia, so he'll feel very much at home, I'd have thought, being in that open water swim. Matthias Peterson, another pink cap coming out just then, as we see this is just the rest of the field, a long line of these male athletes all coming up into T1.
Yeah, no, big line, and you know, a lot of the masses of that group that we saw having come under that banner already. You did a great job calling those names as we saw those caps coming through. But certainly, most of the big players are coming out and rolling out through transition. Again, kind of a long run. We can see the leaders, at least 4 of the top 5 at the very top of that transition. This great overhead shot. They're going to take a left-hand corner here and go on the special pro transition area with the carpet. And we can see these athletes doing the best they can to be as quick and efficient. They'll take the swim skin on, step out of that swim skin, put that helmet on at the same time. It's kind of a pat the head, rub the belly situation here, and who can be the most efficient. We see Kenjanina, one of the first ones out. We had
that short course transition times.
Yep, we had Dubrick already in front. There's Dubrick going in line here. Great follow shot from one of our cameramen there. So here's the top 3, now 4 athletes. That is Barnaby in 4th place getting onto the bike. So seamless, this group of 5. Nobody, usually you'll see 1 or 2 of a front group like this get lost or left behind in transition, and not this time.
Yeah, that's right. So that's our lead group of 5 away, I should say, and they're hoping to be keeping a gap. That swim time coming through from Mark Dubrick was 25:55 minutes, so a little bit slower than predicted. That's no real surprise with the conditions. Kenji Nina was actually coming out in second, 25:57. Jamie Riddle, 25:58.
And that's 59. Actually inclusive of T1 as well.
Sorry, yes, that is.
So
My
we'll
apologies.
We'll probably have back time on the swim also. But I do think that it was a slower swim than probably expected. And this is now what we're seeing is the front of the women's race. So not that big of a gap to those athletes behind, probably 45 seconds to a minute of a group of, that looks like 8 to 10. But here's our front 2 women, and some bike power with these 2 women. So unlike with the men's race, we'll expect to see a lot of the action come together. Mark Doke in Geograph Bay, our cameraman. But those 2 women do have the ability to separate themselves from the rest of this race and maybe make the race you know, more bike intensive by being separate off the start.
As our 2 leaders hit the water, and you can see where they've come into the beach. They've actually got to run back across through the waters to come out at the right exit. So that is the turnaround, I think, for the full distance, where athletes are going to do an Aussie exit, and our 2 leaders just sighted off the wrong part, so you had to see them running along the beach. And that's why I was going to point back before you had that view of that you could see the different lines as people were heading to the right or the left. Also, like with an ocean swim, you've got all the current, so you have to be able to read the surf. It might have been quicker for those athletes to come in on the left and then run across the beach because of my mind's gone blank, the rip. And the tide coming in.
Watching the way the waves were coming through, I think that's it. It's just quicker to run across than to try to swim.
Pretty sure that was Marta Sanchez. Sorry, just coming out in that silver cap.
Yeah. Coming through some of our men's field still here. But we could see Lottie Wilms came through in a swim time of 26:17 with Teresa Adams same time as well. And here we go. We got the first out of the water split from Wahoo Element Rival is 26:17 while we were on that woman, Lottie Wilms, running through transition. Again, it was Teresa Adams right behind her, Marta Sanchez at 26:39, so not too far off. Rochelle Hill at 26:47, Valerie Bartholomew at 26:54, and Louisa Pratt at 26:57. So much tighter than we originally had thought from that separation. So the top 6 women within 40 seconds.
Yeah, and you see some of those women, it just shows how fast the women is with a 5-minute gap. They'd caught some of the back of the age group men. That's Valerie Bartholomew going under the arch there as well. I think. And
Hannah Berry just came out as well in 27:33. So
that's a great swim for Hannah.
Just 36 seconds behind 6th place, and within a minute, minute and 15 of the front of the race with Grace Alexander, 27:54.
The female I'm interested to see in that group was Rochelle Hill. Again, fairly new to the middle distance. She finished second at Noosa Triathlon just a couple of weeks ago behind Ashley Gentle. And she's mainly from that Olympic short distance racing. So I'm really intrigued to see how she goes over the long distance. But kind of no surprise to see her up there at the start in the swim. But will be interesting to see how she goes on this fast bike course over the 90 kilometers.
There we go. As we see Lotta Wilms putting that helmet on and getting her bike out of the rack and doing the best that she can to make sure nothing falls off that bike in the meantime. This is the challenge of going through transition sometimes.
And having everybody watching you. That was quite close spectators there over the other side of the fence.
Yeah, a little pressure there, but she looks calm and smooth, and looks like she's gotten a bit of a gap in transition 1. We're still looking for Teresa Adams.
That was Teresa Adams. Confusingly, they both race for the same team, so have the same race kit.
Yeah, so Teresa Adams is second.
Yeah, as these guys head out onto the full gas 1-lap bike course. So flat and fast here at Bustleton, but they have got 5 180-degree turns to navigate, but lots of opportunity to see where your competitors are, as we see our lead female, which I'm going to say it's Teresa, but could be Lottie until we get the numbers up on the side.
Yeah, it's hard to say. First out of transition was Lotta Wilms. So unless there was an early move there, Teresa would be one to make that early move. Wouldn't be surprised. Very, very, very strong cyclist. Grace Tech was able to come out of the water in 10th place at 28:43. So top 10 in the women's field, separated by about 2.5 minutes. As we look at some of our chasers and some of our male chasers coming out of transition and getting ready to hit the bike course here in Bustleton. A lot more action to go here as we're just about 5 kilometers into the race for the men and just the start for the women. Welcome back to Ironman 70.3, Western Australia, the Asia Pacific Championships here in Bustleton. Great overhead shot of our transition area that's going to house their 70.3 athletes and the Ironman athletes out here racing in Bustleton as we're back, looks like on the front of the men's field with this group of 5 right now trying to spread themselves out or stay away from this main chasing group as long as possible, as well as Barnaby really in the driver's seat right now as far as the Pro Series go. If you look at him versus Hogenhog, they're in a tight race. So Barnaby's going to be one of these athletes that is really going to be pushing from the very beginning. And as we saw, that was Mark Dubrick that we just went by. We could see their Morton transition times. Top 3 fastest males through T1 as Matt Burton, 1:38. Scott Farrington, 1:39. And Osoro in 1:40.
Yeah, all pretty quick, all pretty fast times for those men, as we are with our leader, that is Jamie Riddle at the front of the men's race, leading that group of 5, who we've got one of the chasers trying to get back or trying to break away and bridge up to that group of 5 at the front. We'll get the number on the side. That's Jake Birtwistle.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Yeah.
There you go. Always they're keeping us on our toes all day long here. No surprise. Again, as you said, pretty new on the 70.3 distance side of things, but every athlete that was lining up in this male field was expecting something impressive out of this athlete, or at least an athlete they certainly had to keep an eye on. He's probably one they're thinking could win this race, or, realize 70.3 is harder than he thinks.
Yeah, and he's not used to being a time trial bike. He's raced the Noosa Triathlon a fair amount, and that's a Olympic distance, but it's non-drafting and has had great success there. Exactly. So he'll be used to being in a time trial position, whether he's used to it being in it for the 90 kilometers or not, we'll see. But he was doing his best effort to try and bridge up to this leading group of 5 that we are seeing here. Jamie Riddle, Mark Dubrick, Kenji Nina, Gregory Barnaby, and our 5th athlete as well.
There we go. And it's a little chaser. It looks like he was actually chasing to get back onto this group here. So that is, looks like that group of 5 with the chaser coming back to them.
Yeah, Cameron Main. Apologies, Cameron. He was our 5th athlete through in that group as the men are through the 10K. So yeah, Jamie Riddle threw in just under 40 minutes for the total with the swim and through 10K. So Jamie Riddle, Mark Dubrick, Kenji Nina, Gregory Barnaby, and Cameron Main with Jake Birtwistle just trying to jump on to the back of that pack.
Yeah, and again, it's that athlete I was expecting to see be one that could possibly bridge up. That, again, second best mustache on the program today. Nick Thompson was 60 seconds behind.
I think we should throw that out to the audience. I'm sorry we don't have the comments anymore on the screen.
We all know that.
I think we should have a vote. Can we put a vote up for that? Who's voting on the best mustache?
I actually met Nick Thompson in Cairns, and his mustache actually shed a tear when it met mine. So there's that. But anyways, he has moved himself up 20 seconds to this group. We can see great aerodynamic setup from our leader there, getting all his hydration and closing off some of that quote-unquote dirty air. And we could see where they're racing by the gear ratio that these athletes have on their bikes. Western Australia, very flat, so huge front chainring from this athlete and a very, very tiny rear cassette. We call that a corncob cassette in the U.S., and that that means they don't need a lot of variety in what kind of gear range they need. Yeah.
So will they just have one chainring at the front then? They'll just have that big chainring. They won't have a second one?
I couldn't really tell, but it looked like he was on a one-by setup because you don't need two in that setup. And, the one-by is very efficient these days. We saw a lot of athletes, even in Kona, on a one-by. But on this course specifically, with that one-by, you would have that rear cassette does not have much of a
so
change.
Explain the difference.
Yeah, and we can see just real quick, that's Mark Dubrick on the left side of the screen in that aerodynamic position, and it looks like still Lotte Wilms on the right-hand side of our screen in the lead of the race. And yeah, the difference there is that the more gear changes or the bigger that rear cassette is, the more range they will have for different conditions of climbing. So you'll be able to have higher RPM at a similar output. But on this course, you might have the biggest or the smallest cog in the back is probably a 10, and they might be as small as a 23 or a 25 in the rear, as we see Kenji going around Mark Dubrick to try to tighten that gap up. And things are tightening up at the front of the women's race. Big mover in between the PWAG racers.
That's right.
And real quick, Laura, we see on screen our top 3 fastest female times from Martin, and that's Hill, Els Visser, and Marta Sanchez. And we see who that big mover is.
And I think that's Marta Sanchez that's gone straight to the front of the race ahead of Lotte Wilms and Teresa Adams. We will get a confirmation on that, but I think that's who it is. It is Marta Sanchez. So she's had some fantastic results over the full distance this year, winning Ironman South Africa. She was top 10 in Nice as well, and she is not hanging about at the front of this race, and we will catch up with more of the racing after this break.
Welcome back to Ironman 70.3, Western Australia, Asia Pacific Championships in Bustleton. We are with our women's leaders. That is Marta Sanchez in third place, Teresa Adam in second, and Lotte Wilms happy to be back in the lead, pushing the pace. And they are on a fast section, which most of this course is, but one of the straighter sections of the course. And riding well. And I'd imagine putting gap into the chasers still.
Yeah, the women are through the 20-kilometer marks now. So those three have a gap of about 1 minute 20 to Rochelle Hill. And then back to Valerie Bartholomew is 1:43 back. And Hannah Berry, there we see her for the first time at 1:47 back. So there's a smaller group from 6th through to 9th. 5th through to 9th. About 20 seconds back, Rochelle Hill in sort of no man's land in the middle, as these three women are sort of navigating some of the back of the pro men's field as well.
And there's Teresa Adam on screen.
Look at that helmet.
Yeah, looking good.
That's very cool.
She's still rocking the, as you said, she's won the New Zealand Time Trial Championship before as well, and representing her country there. Pretty cool paint job. Certainly in these international competitions, do so as much as possible. We see Marta Sanchez navigating her way through this course, as we have one of our male pros currently riding through the group. But Teresa Adams and Lotte Wilms doing a great job of making sure they're still pushing that pace. You did mention Hannah Berry in that chase group at 1:47 back, so she's actually pulled a little bit of time. Sometimes when you see these groups settle, like this front three had like a burst of energy when Marta Sanchez came and caught, but then once it settles, there's a little bit more looking over the shoulder type of thing. So you can see that Hannah Berry is able to push the pace and pull back a little bit, and you would expect her as a very, very good Ironman distance athlete take a little bit longer to warm up into the 70.3 distance, certainly on a course this flat and fast. So we'll see whether or not these times continue to come down as far as the gap to Hannah Berry goes.
Yeah, that's right. And if we could have a speech bubble into Teresa Adams' head, then I would probably think it was saying something like, "Please, could this male pro move out of our race?"
I don't
politely.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what she'd be saying. I think right now she's pretty content to sit on whoever's wheel is in front of her.
I don't know. It's pretty annoying as a female when you get look as this. You've got a male pro slotting in to the females race and one at the front. It's fairly frustrating as a female race.
And there we go. Marta Sanchez riding in third position at the front of the course. And doing a great job of it. And again, she's kind of in prime position. As you said, she's not, it's not surprising that at the front of these three is a lot of Wilms pushing the pace, because she has more to gain from getting time on the chasing athletes like a Hannah Berry and others that are in that pro series. So, if you think about tactics, these two athletes could be happy or content to quote unquote let a lot of Wilms set the pace.
Yeah, that's right.
She has more to lose.
Yeah, Teresa and Marta aren't highly featuring in the pro series, just not having sufficient races that count. So yeah, it's very much on Lottie Wilms, currently sitting in 6th place. She's also only got 3 races down in the pro series, so 3 Ironman races. So with Bustleton and then the World Championships in Topor, she's going to probably have a fairly significant jump up the rankings if all goes well for her in these next 2 races, as we see Sanchez trying to regain into the top 3 with those women going through the Tuart Forest here in Bustleton, Western Australia. Also keeping your eyes out for some wildlife. It's very well known for kangaroos to be on course or in the surrounding area as well. So a great place to race, as the women just trying to sort themselves out with that race ranger and the lights and keep the 3 of them together in the women's race.
Yeah, absolutely. Marta Sanchez doing a great job of that. And it's not easy to move around through a field, when you want to make sure you're keeping an advantage and moving as far forward into the field as possible and keeping your race tactics at the forefront of your mind, and do so without putting yourself at risk for penalties. And she's doing so a great job of that, is Marta Sanchez. And I have a feeling she's going to be a name we're talking about a lot in the next few years. It seems like she's certainly moving her way up to the very, very front of the sport. And the more she does so, the more confident she's going to get, and the more ability to have top results, the more confident she gets. So excited to see what Marta Sanchez brings today and through the rest of her career.
Yeah, I think pretty unknown this year as an athlete. Sort of not probably one of the big names in the women's side of the sport. But if you look at the results, I mean, 6th in Nice at the World Championships. It's an incredible result to have on your resume. Plus, then following that or backing that up with a win at Ironman Barcelona, and she started the year with Ironman South Africa win. She's definitely raced a couple of like the tougher, longer distance races, not as familiar, or we don't see her as often over the short course. But as we heard in that Fighting Chance video, she's here to obviously go for the win, but also get her slot for the 70.3 World Championships next year in Marbella in Spain. And test her legs at the back of the season off the back of those 2 Ironman races as well. So yeah, I agree with you. I think she's definitely a name we're going to see in the future, particularly over the long distance side of the sport.
Yeah, and through 20 kilometers in, we saw Grace Tech in 10th place. She's down at 3 minutes back, so she's losing. She's kind of one of our top names or top players that's losing a fair bit of time. I'm honestly kind of surprised to see her lose that kind of time this early in the course, especially it being a minute separated from 9th place ahead of her. So she might not be quite on her best day at this point. But right now, the women's top 10 is Teresa Adam, Lotta Wilms, Marta Sanchez, Rochelle Hill, Louisa Pratt, Valerie Bartholomew, Hannah Berry, Grace Alexander, Chloe Hartnett, and Grace Tech. And Teresa Adam playing the patience game. We talked about tactics in races like this, and certainly if you're going to let other people set the pace, the first half of the bike ride is when you would want to do so. And often we'll see the cream rise to the top, kind of the last third of a 70.3 bike split. We'll see if Teresa Adam is saving some energy up for the end, or if this is her kind of pacing strategy throughout. But we've had a vision of her face and her, kind of demeanor. It does look like she's relaxed and not on the rivet, as they say. So look for good things for Teresa Adam, as they, again, have pretty good gap on chasing athletes from behind.
Yeah, and I'd say out of the 3 of these athletes, Teresa is probably, and I guess, again, I say relatively, the the weaker of the three on the run. She's a very good runner, but often just has struggled, I think, to get back to her run after injury, as we see Teresa Adams, the supplemental stats on the bike at 28.5 kilometers brought to us by AG1. So that's a 1:31:36 estimated clock at the next split. She's traveling at approximately 42.34 kilometers an hour average speed. So that's the same for those front three women.
Again, we have our men have gone through 44 kilometers. That front group with Riddle, Dubrick, Callan, Thompson, Hogenhog, and Barnaby and Birtwistle are all together within 8 seconds. And then 8th place, Matthias Peterson is 1:12 back with Ben Hamilton, 1:15, and Mike Phillips, 1:47.
And again, I think like we saw with Penny Slater bridging into that top 10 on the women, I think the move from Mike Phillips, he seems to be moving pretty fast, or the fastest on course at the moment, and moving into up 5 slots into that 10th position as well. As we're back with our male leaders on screen, the long line of those front athletes all spaced out using the Race Ranger.
Yeah, we can see that Callan in 4th position there. That's Dubrick in 3rd. We saw Hogenhog, I think, was in 6th or 5th there, and I believe that's Birtwistle
in second.
in second. And our leader right now, I believe that is Riddle.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Which I often am, but I'm not right now.
No, I think you're right on that one. So they seem to be working together pretty well, rotating through, taking turn at the front. Obviously, you can still share the workload when you're in a pack like this, even with keeping at the drafting distance, having someone else lead, doing the work, and you can just sit at that correct distance behind. So if they are moving through and rotating through, it's quite good tactics by these front guys to try and get a bigger gap on the ones on the chasers behind, as long as you can back your run legs coming off a group like this.
Yeah, and you can see within 12 kilometers, they've made up 45 seconds on the group that was behind them. So it's impressive work from this group, and I think we're going to continue to see it extend, that gap extend and extend. Not a lot of huge bike powerhouses kind of in that group from behind, as we see one of our athletes making his way up the right-hand side. And, when we were talking about kind of the drafting rules, you make a move, this is Hogenhog, couldn't see the red in front of him. You get closer within that 12 meters, you got to go by every single one of them because they're all riding at that legal distance. And I'm impressed. He still looks very, very calm and controlled. Even this effort, that's probably the hardest effort he's had to do so far today, outside of when he originally had to bridge up to that group. And he still looks very, very calm. You can see in his face, he's not stressing too much. He's not rocking side to side too much. See a little bit of movement, but in that very, very aerodynamic position, Christian Hogenhog is moving quite well.
Yeah, and we've seen him break away off the front in races before. I know in some of the hillier races, Mallorca, he broke away off the front. So it always takes him a little bit longer out the water to catch up with that front pack. So I think he'll be pretty happy to catch up and then move to the front. And as you said, just looks so smooth, so aero, just very relaxed in that position as well. So yeah, I think he'll be pretty happy to now be back at the front of the race.
And he's actually looks like, he's stretched it out a little bit with the momentum that he had going around all those athletes. He's not going to put the brakes on when he comes back. So you can see now this elastic starting to stretch, whether or not that was him just going by the group and having that momentum go through, or if he's sitting in 7th being like, man, we're not going fast enough right now. I'm going too easy. I want to push that pace. Whatever that was, he has certainly changed the dynamics in that front group. We see Nick Thompson really struggling as that Constantina effect. The last person in that group is going to feel it more than anyone else. So right now he's just driving to get himself back close to that legal distance.
That's it, and you've really got to pay attention when something like that happens, when someone puts in that surge or moves to the front. If you're not completely switched on and kind of with half an eye up the road, then there is that opportunity that you do get sprung off the back, or that elastic does snap. So yeah, really is important. You've got to really be aware of what's happening up front, even if you're that one at the back. And like you said, that effect is so much amplified as it comes back to the back, in that sort of Constantina effect.
Welcome back to Ironman 70.3 Western Australia Asia Pacific Championships here in Busselton. And Mark Dubrick on screen, and he's got some water bottles on the back of his bike, and he's been using those to hydrate through the day. It's always ends up getting warm out on course, especially if you're from the northern hemisphere. It always feels a little bit muggy down in Australia, but he's still holding himself in that front group. Again, really impressed by the fighting that it's taken. Often, if you were to look at the splits and the start of the bike and the end of the bike, you'd be like, oh man, those guys rode in a group and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it was for a very flat course. This has been an incredibly dynamic bike ride, and a lot of athletes probably setting some 5-minute power records on a flat course. And Barnaby's still up out of that saddle trying to bridge up. And again, Nick Thompson sees Dubrick open a gap that he had done to Mark just a few minutes ago, and taking turns to make sure these athletes are staying at the front. And yeah, really impressed by Riddle and Hogenhog being able to hang on Callan. Obviously impressed by Callan being kind of the powerhouse of this front group. But all these athletes, it's so much harder, Laura, when you are the difference between setting your pace at what you can set it at and responding to others at what they're setting. It's night and day. And if you're 1% higher, and right now it looks like Robert Callan is putting in a surge on this little roller, or it's just power late in the course that others are having more trouble to deal with than Robert.
Yeah, especially
starting to stretch things out.
Yeah,
again.
especially out of that corner as well. And if you're sitting like Barnaby is in that sort of sixth position, and you get that concertina effect or that elastic, you just, every time you go around that corner, you've just got a little bit more effort to get back out and to get back on. If he's sort of yo-yoing off the back, that's going to have a huge impact on his legs when it comes to the run. Whereas like you've got Callan just being able to sit at the front, drive his own power, use those corners to his own advantage. As we see on the split screen now, Lottie Wilms on the left as our women's leader. A little bit more movement in her riding. I'm not saying she's working any harder or Robert Callan's working any less. It's just slightly different styles, and she's moving that upper or using that upper body to generate her power. As we see VinFast performance analysis on the bottom of the screen with Lottie Wilms bike through at 61.5 kilometers. So she's going an average speed for the last split of 42.68 kilometers an hour, and she's still in that, assuming that leading trio with Teresa Adam and Marta Sanchez as well.
Yeah, we see Robert Callan on the right-hand side of the screen. We've seen in his ability to have incredibly fast bike splits. I mean, you're talking about someone who rode a 4:01:44 in Kona. He's ridden 157s, 154s, 151s, out of control over this distance. And right now, the estimation, and it does seem like he's put in an effort after that last 75-kilometer split. The estimator is showing a sub 154 bike split. So very impressive riding from him. And then a lot of Wilms, who we see obviously on screen right now, had some incredible bike splits as well. We've seen her, I think the World Championships in Nice at 5:22 doesn't sound impressive until you've went out and ridden that course. That's a challenging course there. But Cairns 4:43, 4:40 at Texas. And, she's had some fast 70.3 distance splits as well, 2:16s. But I think today is probably going to be her PR over the 70.3 distance, but she is cruising along quite well.
Did you ride the whole course in Nice?
Yeah.
What time did you do it in? 5 hours 20?
Let's pay attention to the athletes on screen.
just going back to Robert Callan. So the previous course record for the men on this course was by Matt Burton, who is in the race today, but it was 2 hours and 34 seconds. So it looks like Robert Callan is going to take a significant chunk off that. The women's is 2:18:29. Back set in 2019, and I would imagine that the women are going to break that course record as well, but we'll see what the prediction is as we look down through 61.5 kilometers. We've got the leading three, and then it was said Hannah Berry in fourth, just lost a little bit of time again. At now over 2 minutes, she just crept under the 2-minute mark, but now over 2 minutes back from this leading three.
Yeah, and I think she's setting her own pace, and it's a consistent pace. So I at that point, not to nitpick, but probably isn't a big deal that she's losing 10 or 20 seconds because she's doing so at the pace that she wants to ride. She's not kind of responding once that she's kind of realized that she's riding it on her own. And to your point, a lot of Wilms right now, it's showing, the predictor is showing that she's on pace for a 2:10 bike split, which is incredibly fast. Matt Burton is actually out on course racing today. You mentioned him with his bike split. Right now, he's on course and moving through and now up into 9th place. So best of the rest, not in that front group as far as pace goes, but right now sitting in 9th and expected at around a 156 bike split. And he's a very strong runner. And often I think people think that, and I think why Hannah Berry will end up doing quite well on this course, people think that a tough course suits a strong cyclist on the run. And that is true, but sometimes, like, I love a tough bike course, and the harder it is, the better I did.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Flat bike courses are so hard to stay on that pace the whole time, especially if you're riding by yourself. So, like, the actual fatigue that's in the legs, you don't have. Yes, you can go harder up a hill, but then you can coast down a hill, and the stronger cyclists tend to like that. But a flat course might actually suit the strong legs of someone like a Barnaby and a Burton. But we'll see when we get back from this commercial break. Great stuff from Hannah Berry, and expect to see her move up a fair bit today, obviously, in the points, and put herself. And she's also an athlete that clearly is looking for the Pro Series, but also backing herself to have a win here today.
Yeah, she's an athlete. I think she's taken a huge step in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Before that, she was very dominant in New Zealand in a lot of her racing, didn't really race that much overseas, started racing overseas, was getting some results, but really the last couple of years, she's really stepped up. And I mean, we've seen, if you look at the full distance, 11th in Kona last year, and then a 10th in Nice this year, first at Ironman Cairns, 4th in Texas. She's really establishing herself as, again, another one of those athletes that doesn't have a standout element to their race. She's just good across the board. Her swim, her bike, her run is all strong. It's all consistent. And I think, she'll definitely be backing herself. She's in kind of no man's land at the moment in the race, but I think she'll be pretty confident in that as backing her run to catch those leading three as well, and to stay away from the women behind.
Yeah, no, she's doing so in a great manner. And again, she's setting, and this is exactly what you need to do and you want to do, and that she has done perfectly as an athlete that you would clearly say she has her strengths suit more towards iron distance at this point. She's very, very strong athlete, and she has a great opportunity to win the 70.3 today, but setting herself up to ride her own pace. And she's done that, and at the end of the day, she might end up outriding the group of three in front of her because she's done so. And the effort that it would take, even though they were in quote unquote a group, would be higher, I think, the way that front group is riding, as we see Marta Sanchez come through, versus someone who's just settled in. Even if maybe your average power is a slightly lower in this group, the fact that you have to go above and below and above and below takes a little bit more out of those legs, especially, again, there's something about a flat in the TT bars for the entire 2+ hours onto a flat run that is hard on the legs. And someone with that strong setup that suits an Ironman athlete in the legs and the quads specifically can really have an advantage.
Yeah, and the other thing with this leading group of three, as well as the changing positions, is also that mental piece of, one, okay, yeah, maybe it's good riding in a group, but two, you're just constantly having to be checking that light in front to make sure you're not getting in within the 12 meters.
Yeah, it's stressful.
Yeah, whereas Hannah has just been able to ride her own race, lock into that position, lock into what she's so familiar with Ironman racing and the full distance, and just stick to her own race plan. As I think we've got Grace Alexander, I think, on the screen. We will just get confirmation on that. But I think Grace has actually bridged up. She's sitting in 5th position, so not too far actually behind Hannah as well.
Yeah, and she as well has been able to kind of set a steady pace early. She was, getting gapped earlier on in the race, but then able to push herself back kind of into the thick of things. And then after Grace Alexander
Huge.
in 5th is a very, very large group with Anna Bergstrom, or Bergson, excuse me. Els Visser coming back into that main group. Daniela Blemhel, Chloe Hartnett, Valerie Bartholomew, Maja Sage Nielsen, and Louisa Pratt, Rochelle Hill, Penny Slater, Grace Tech, and
Reagan Hollyoak.
Reagan Hollyoak. That is a large group. And that really has only given up just under 4 minutes, which is a lot of time when you think about the bike split. But then you think about a run. When you look at the women's field, you have runners in here that are favorites in here that some run 120, some run 128. So like there's a lot of gap in there. This race still is totally up for grabs.
Yeah, that's a huge group of like 10 athletes all sitting at that, just under 4 minutes back in that chase from 6th to 16th, which is going to make it really exciting on the run because, as you said, there's such a spread, and some of those athletes are going to be able to run through. And also, if you've got that many athletes coming off the bike together, it's a lot of the women won't be used to sort of running with 9, 8 other people, and so there's going to be all the mind games of not going out too fast, sticking to your own pace as well. As we're back with our men's leaders who are shortly going to be coming into T2. They're not that far away now. We've got Robert Callan, Christian Hogenhoud, Jamie Riddle have been leading at the front of the race for a long time, but Mark Dubrick, Nick Thompson and Gregory Barnaby all hanging in the top group of 6 now. I think it's Gregory Barnaby driving the pace at the front as they finish off the final few kilometers into T2.
Yeah, that's Robert
that's
Callan
still.
Yeah, that's Robert Callan in the front. And he is definitely still pushing the effort and stretching out this field. If it was anything less than that, Hogenhag would be comfortably closer than he is to Callan, especially with that large frame of Callan. You'd want to be as close to that legal distance as possible. So Callan's not making it easy on any of those chasers as we see the cameraman go through here and give us a little bit of a wider shot, and you don't see anybody behind. I think important to note after that 75-kilometer split, it's 3 minutes and 15 seconds to Burt Whistle. So the man on screen, Robert Callan, single-handedly created the gap that forced Burt Whistle out the back. Whether or not he would have lost much more time than that or not is a different question, but Robert Callan used tactics in an incredibly smart way and was able to pull Burt Whistle off the group as we see these athletes go around this corner and get set up to go into transition. Nick Thompson moves himself into 3rd position to be in a great spot coming off of the bike. Riddle in 4th place and Gregory Barnaby sitting in 5th place. So it looks like Dubrick, just gapped there at the very, very final last few kilometers of this bike ride as we see those athletes go around the left-hand side of these bollards here. Robert Callan sitting up. See these athletes starting to mess with their bike shoes and kind of shaking things out, getting prepped to go into transition. Robert Callan around this sweeping roundabout corner is going to have a slight left-hander out of this roundabout and then come into transition, swings his leg over his bicycle. Very large bicycle I've held in my hands, and it was an impressive machine, but he is first out of transition. And so Robert Callan in control of this race, but will be probably the last time we see him at the front for a bit. I think we're going to have a battle on our hands here, and that's a 1:55:38 bike split from Robert Callan with a 1:55:33 with Hogenhag, 56:10 for Thompson, 57:08 with Riddle, and Barnaby 57:10. So those athletes, faster swimmers, so a little bit slower bike splitters. We see athletes putting socks on. That's Hogenhag putting a sock on, then putting a running shoe on, and then vice versa on the other side of his feet with Barnaby right next to him, and it's going to be a battle for those two athletes.
Yeah, so all of those top 5, actually the top 6, Mark Dubrick just coming through in a 1:57:35, all broke the bike course record as he's looks like he's a little bit confused, looking for where his bike is.
Where his stuff is, yeah. We saw Hogenhag actually in the middle of transition kind of stand up, like his back maybe was about to spasm. You wouldn't see somebody stand up and stretch their back out while putting shoes on unless something weird was going on there. So we'll see if Barnaby saw that. He goes straight to the front. Right now it is Barnaby at the front with Hogenhag getting gapped already. And I believe that's Nick Thompson in 4th place. Great forward lean and running really, really well as far as we can see from this distance. In 3rd place, Nick Thompson. And then 4th place is going to be Riddle. And then again, that was Mark Dubrick looked a little bit confused there and lost some space. We could see the top left-hand side of the screen, Robert Callan, I believe, at the end of this group at this point.
Yeah, so really exciting run race to have like all those 6 athletes or 5 athletes coming off together. And like, yeah, going head to head or toe to toe, so to speak, with those athletes. And now, like, I don't know, who do you say out of that lot is the better runner? We've got Barnaby going to the front. Who would you say is the pick of the runners out of that lot?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's depends on the dynamics of the race, right? So I think the way that the dynamics of this race kind of occurred, I would say it could be Barnaby, although he had to fight pretty hard. So I was wrong. It was Callan in 4th, and Riddle was chasing in that 5th position. But I would say on paper, it's probably between Barnaby and Riddle. But it really depends who had to push that pace the most. And I would say Barnaby was exposed the most out of that group of 7. But he's right to the front. I did speak to him in Kona about race tactics and talk to him about patience on the run. And he's like, I'm pretty bad at patience on the run, not my strength. So he's showing that right now, whether or not he has the ability. But as I said, probably on paper, it's Riddle, and Riddle's already past 2 athletes just in the first few 100 meters. He's going to be over Thompson.
Are you saying that from his sort of short distance background and running ability for Riddle? Because he's not done that many half distance races. Yeah.
And you just look at the way that he's running, and honestly, probably that his short course speed, but the fact that he looked very controlled, and you could look at it 2 ways. He was either stressing by always trying to be at the front 3, or is very confident and confident in his position in the top 3 of the bike ride. But Barnaby looks great, and he's not like, you wouldn't look at him and be like, that's a real super fast runner compared to the other great professionals in this field. He almost looks a little heavy on his feet, but he's a very quad dominant athlete in general, and a long torsoed athlete. And I think he just looks, he's running faster than it looks like he's running. And he is an incredibly, incredibly fast runner.
I was going to say, I think he's got a slightly shorter legs than, I guess, in comparison to the length of his torso, whereas you look like behind someone like Jamie Riddle, who looks like his legs are up to his armpit sort of thing, and makes it look like he's running much more efficiently and faster. And yet Gregory Barnaby is one of the fastest runners on paper at this course. And is an incredibly fast runner over the half and full distance, and has been in some run battles this year. He's been in battles running shoulder to shoulder with competitors right until the line. So he's very well placed. He's very experienced. He knows what he's got to do. So he's putting himself in a good position. And
he's a fast runner. We've seen him run, 112s, 114s. He's had the ability to run. We've seen him run a 110, I believe, in 70.3 Bahrain in 2023. So he's quite fast. And it's insane that the sport has gone where it is, where I'm about to say what I'm about to say. That is not a top tier running time athlete. So Riddle could be that athlete. We don't have enough results from him to know that. But right now, if Riddle's smart, all he has to do is get on Barnaby's shoulder and stay here and exchange some words, even a little smile. Maybe that's Barnaby knowing the battle he's in for. But if you're Riddle right now, you're just hanging here.
Yeah.
Unless, and even more so because on the out and backs, these guys know that they're going to have a significant amount of time on Burt Whistle. I was going to say it was at least 4 minutes. It was 5 minutes. So knowing that the strongest runner in the field, most likely Burt Whistle, is over 5 minutes behind, you don't have to worry about him unless you really mess it up. So right now, all that Riddle has to do is stay with Barnaby comfortably till, at least halfway or later stages, till he knows he's comfortable not to expose himself. And the same thing with Barnaby as we see the Morton transition times below with Barnaby at a 158, Mark Dubrick with a 206. With that confusion, that's actually pretty impressive that he was able to maintain that fast of a transition, and Nick Thompson 207. So patience right now, it's these 2 athletes have separated themselves from these chasers. And again, they don't have to worry about anybody they don't have to worry about anybody that they didn't come off the bike with.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, they're in control, and because of the nature of the course, with it being like that out and back, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to see the competitors, and so if they run controlled over this first bike, they can, in theory, if they needed to, pick it up if they saw Jake Birtwistle closing down pretty quickly. I'd say the other way, Jamie Riddle, youngster, has gone to the front. Gregory just needs to pace off him almost and let him do the work, as we see, as you said, these two have got a bit of a gap. They're pulling away from Nick Thompson, but Nick Thompson's doing really well at holding that third position, and if he carries on, he'll probably have one of his best results to date.
Yep, and it looks a lot like it did a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
And again, that's Lotte Wilms just being at the front of this course and kind of taking it on her shoulders, literally. And we're going to see her go around this roundabout. She's got a couple more roundabouts to go. We're going to see her have take a left-hand turn and not too much time. But amazing work from this athlete. And as you said, we've seen her get more consistent over the last few years. And, she made a point at the very beginning of the season or before the season started that she wanted to put her name on the list for the Pro Series and have it be near the top at the end. And she's doing a great job of ensuring that here today.
And I think you're right, like that she's had that consistency because she's just so solid, so good across the board. But I also think she's gaining in confidence each time she races and just having more and more of these fantastic results under her belt, on her resume, the way she rides, the way she races in terms of she's at the front in the swim, she's strong on the bike, but that confidence grows of being used to being in that position of being at the front, leading the race. I think, if you look back a couple of years in the races she was doing, yes, she'd be at the front, but maybe didn't quite have the confidence in her ability on the bike and the run. Whereas I think now, 8th in Nice and the podium she's had this year at Cairns and Texas, and really establishing herself as one of the best long distance athletes. That confidence is, we're just seeing it grow and grow as we see those front women were getting ready to head into T2. They were undoing their shoes as they come around the roundabout. Hannah Berry, that we just got a glimpse of sitting in 4th. We'll see what the gap is, what further time they've put into the chasers.
Yeah, and she's going to stay on it there. A little bit of congestion there getting off the bike. We see Lotte Wilms actually ended up I don't believe, getting off of the bike first in that group. Little congestion as it came through there, but no, she was able to get off of that bike first and goes around the right-hand side there. We see Marta Sanchez in second place.
Yeah, so splits coming through. So Lotte Wilms was a 2:12.33. Sanchez 2:12.14. So at the moment she's probably on the screen we have the first off the bike, Wahoo, presented by Wahoo Element Bolt, of a 2:12.33 by Lotte Wilms. So that's the first off the bike time. So it was Lotte Wilms, but at the moment on the fastest bike split, we'll find out how the rest of the pro women goes. But Marta Sanchez at 2:12.14 at the moment, as those three women go out and head out on the run.
Okay, it's possible. Some people would say right now this is a 3-woman race for the win. I don't know that I would agree with that, but some people would say that. Who is your money on as we stand right here?
Out of those three, or out of generally
those
the
three.
rest? Out of those three. Oh gosh.
It's Marta Sanchez.
I was going to say, I think Marta Sanchez, and then probably Lotte with Teresa as third. Just in the way I think Marta's potentially...
And look at her stride at the top of the screen.
But she did race, she's got 2 Ironmans in her legs of late. And I don't think, Lotte's another one, a bit like Gregory Barnary. She's got a very efficient running style that she doesn't look like she's running super fast, but she is very strong and very solid and very steady. But I do think, whereas that Marta's, looking at that, her running style, it does make her look like she's got that faster turnover, that longer leg stride.
For sure. And I mean, I think you're totally right. And I think she's probably already caught and is up on Lotte Wilms already. She just has that quick turnover. And I think the tactics of this woman are going to be to get out quickly. And there is something also like a little bit psychological in the athlete. If you're the athlete that is at the front of the race and somebody comes by you quick at a faster speed, you feel defeated a little bit. So like there is a tactical game there a little bit that Marta Sanchez just going straight to the front and putting a little bit of effort in and kind of breaking Lotta Wilms early. And already, she's got a substantial gap that she's going to be able to continue to extend. But just like we said with Riddle and Barnaby, Lotta Wilms is not one that's going to crack. She's not going to have a big explosion. She's going to be that diesel engine that keeps going. And her stride looks fantastic. Right?
Yeah, and I think I've seen this in races before this year where Lottie Wilms has come out onto the run with other athletes and they have set off at a much faster pace. And she's just stuck at her pace and she just keeps going. And by the end of the race, and that might have been a full distance, she's reeled them back in and she's actually moved ahead because she's just been solid and consistent all the way through, whereas other athletes have set off a lot faster. Now, like looking at results on paper, Marta's not actually that much faster on paper than Lottie Wilms. A couple of minutes maybe over that half distance, but obviously has set off a lot faster and they've gapped obviously Teresa Adam. And it'd just be interesting to see when we come to like the later stages if Marta's still going at that pace or if Lottie has just managed to pace it a lot better and consistently comes through.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you never know. I mean, I think Sanchez has a little bit.
She's a little bit quicker.
A little more consistent, but I think it's more. I speak more to the dynamics of the fact that it was always Lotte pushing the pace, and that's an expenditure. And again, she does not have to worry. You always want to win the race that you're in, and Lotte's trying to win that race. But again, with that money that's up for grabs with the Pro Series and the prestige that comes with it, she's more concerned with moving up in that series than necessarily trying to get across the line in front of Marta Sanchez. She wants to have a gap on Hannah Berry, and she wants to have a gap on those other athletes in that large group behind to be able to have those points. And she's playing it quite well, and that just plays into the hands of an athlete like Marta Sanchez. Be like, yeah, I'll sit in this group and let you push the pace all day long and then try to go past you as soon as I can early in the run. But that group has come through, off the bike. So Hannah Berry's 2:53 behind in fourth place starting the run. Grace Alexander 3:05 behind in fifth place. Els Visser 3:43 at the front of that group. Then in seventh place, Anna Bergström in 3:44. Then Danielle Blemhell, then Penny Slater, then Maya Stage Nielsen at 4:02. And Chloe Hartnett 4:10, and that's your large chase group. Yeah,
so they didn't really gain or lose any time from the leaders, but again, that sort of Hannah Berry and Grace Alexander in the middle did lose a bit of time. So it'd be interesting to see now. But the thing that you go back to the Pro Series, though, yes, Lottie Wilms is about getting as many points, but now with Sanchez up the road, if she starts pulling away, then that's going to decrease the number of points that everyone else behind gets. So Lottie wants to be as close as she can.
Yeah, but if she's looking at the race against who she's racing today, she's putting herself to get more points on a Hannah Berry. But yeah, you're absolutely right. She's going to keep it as close as possible as we start the run here in Bustleton. We'll be right back. And here we go, back on screen with our leaders. Gregory Barnaby having a fantastic race here and continues to open the gap. He's through 18.1 kilometers now. Cannot see Riddle behind him. And it is going to be a question of, is Riddle going to be able to hold on or really you might start seeing the fade of him moving through or back through some of those chasers. But right now he's at 53 seconds behind.
Yeah, so just lost 53 seconds in that last 4 kilometers with just a couple of kilometers left to go. As you see the crowds going under the bridge, the athletes, the Ironman athletes, age group athletes are coming out of the water. We're running over the run course. So lots of crowds and spectators in that section of the run course, which is fantastic for the athletes as we get Jamie Riddle grimacing in these final few kilometers, looking behind him and looking, it looks like he's limping a little bit as well. Yes. Looks like he's cramping. So yeah, definitely
He's got a cramp
in
there.
a painful place.
Yeah, you can see him leaning back, and the expression. He's had a similar expression the whole run. It's just gotten like more exclamation points added to it as we get through the distance. But he's fighting, and this will be a great learning experience for him. And he's fighting hard to hold on to second. I think he will, and I think it's kind of okay that he's looking behind, but this is something you'll learn over that distance. An athlete like this that's going to find himself in the lead is like, man, just trust the out and backs. You've seen what you've seen at the out and backs. And the worst thing you can do, I learned it earlier in my career. I had a big gap on someone with like 400 meters to go. And they were like, I never thought I was going to catch you until I saw you look back. And then they got you. It's like, it's basically, I got one more place I didn't think I was going to get. So don't let him see you look back. But he's doing a great job right now. But again, Grigory, there's Dubrick, and he's not too far back.
He's got a minute at the last checkpoint on him, but it certainly looked like the way Riddle was suffering and sort of limping and looking back that gap might have been less so.
Yeah, no, it's and Dubrick, he's going to see that. It's going to be kind of a horse to the barn situation. If he's got any energy, he's going to completely empty the tank. And again, to Barnaby in the lead, that athlete is on screen right now, and he's in 5th place in the Pro Series, moved up 10 spots in Kona. And he's going to get 2,500 points here today that will put him in the lead of the Pro Series. And he'll have a significant gap over Patrick Lange, who's not going to Topah, and Matt Hansen, who is maybe going to be there, hopefully, coming off of a knee injury and a surgery. And Bradley Weiss, he's going to have a large gap on these athletes and still opportunity to gain more points in Topah. So, and he's going to be putting a substantial amount of points back in on Christian Hogenhag. So that gap is going to continue to open, and Hogenhag is going to move up as well. But this is absolutely to plan for Gregory Barnaby. He's going to leave here this weekend almost certainly with a win, prize money for this Asia Pacific Championship, which is a fantastic amount of money, putting himself in position to earn a lot of cash for that Pro Series win as well, and bonuses on top of all those things, and renewed confidence. And will not be, as you said, somehow he's been an athlete that we don't count as a favorite. Not all of us do. I like to say I bring his name up a fair bit, but cannot be ignored after this race and this season, more importantly. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, I think he's had with this win, he's got a pretty perfect score over his two 70.3 distances. Now, obviously, it'll be tough to increase that at 70.3 Worlds, but it is 3,000 points for the win there. And, to get over 2,500, I think he's got to be within 8 minutes of the lead, which is certainly possible. I think 70.3 Worlds is going to be a super exciting race with a lot of different athletes coming in to mix up the tactics rather than sort of this standard 70.3 athletes racing that we've seen through the series.
Totally. And although it's Riddle is one of those athletes that you would say, as is Burt Whistle, and I think you make a great point, but he's running away from this field, which is a very good field. Yes. So he's clearly in as good a shape as he can be for 70.3. So, yes, it will be hard for him to improve on 2,500 points, but he probably will. And he only lost 23 seconds on his other one. So
that's what I mean.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But I still think he won't be talked about in Topor as a favorite. He'll be talked about now for the series.
You're right. I will talk about him in a Topor.
Because you're on the board. Yeah, exactly. And now you know, but I think the media leading up will not pick him out.
Yeah, you're probably right. And that is the fault of the media at times. And I think it's hard because these athletes don't always race where you can see them. And I was able to see him and talk to him and see how he raced, even though he didn't have a great result in Cannes and in Nice last year. And you're like, oh, okay. Like when you're in person and you see it and you talk to him, you're like, oh, okay, now I see what they're capable of. So you can do it. So it's one of these things that the more we'll see these athletes on screen and the more we see them on purpose or on in person at these race sites for the Ironman Pro Series, the more guys like this won't be able to fall under the radar. And he looks great.
He looks like he's on a mission.
I will say we didn't even really know he had a mustache.
No,
so
I think it's grown over the period of the race.
He's in 5th or 6th place in the overall standings for the mustache, but obviously running away. And it seemed to be accelerating. And I would not be surprised if this is a negative split. Here he comes in the last few meters, I believe. We've got Barnaby, but oh man, he just wants to be done. But look at Dubrick behind. Just looking over the shoulder. You've got to keep the eyes forward, Riddle. Just keep moving forward, and he is just chewing the air and looking at the watch as much as he can, chewing his lip, chewing the air, chewing his tongue, and just wanting to get to that finish line. And no doubt, Mark Dubrick is on his toes as much as he can be after the brutal day here. But right-hand corner into the finish, and it's Gregory Barnaby getting the high fives, taking in as much of love as he can from the town here in Bustleton. And here he is, your Ironman 70.3 Western Australia Asia Pacific champion, Gregory Barnaby, with that smile we all love to see. One of the coolest and nicest guys out on the circuit. And, you know, he wants to make sure they got a great wedding coming up in May. And he's putting a lot of money in the bank. And I'm not going to say I'm pretty excited to get my invitation, Gregory. It's going to be a sweet party.
And that's actually his first win in a race since 2022, and actually his first Ironman 70.3.
And an emotional
run. So lots of firsts there, as we see his run split for our male pro champion, Gregory Barnaby. Run split presented by Wahoo Element Rival of a 1:12.29.
Amazing stuff as we see Riddle in the final few hundred meters, just looking over his shoulder. I think he's got it. We don't see Dubrick, but man, if Dubrick has the energy, he's like, where do I go? Is it left? Is it right? I don't know. Not only is he physically cracked, he's mentally
he's still got a bit to go.
Just exhausted. And if Dubrick's there, no doubt he's on his toes, sprinting as fast as he can. But it's to get that energy is more challenging than it might seem. We see Craig Alexander, one of the true legends in the sport, congratulating Gregory Barnaby for moving up almost certainly into the lead of the Pro Series, but obviously getting the win here in Bustleton. But we want to see camera on our second place finisher. Riddle is see how much he can battle and if he can hold off Mark Dubrick for that second place. And we're all hoping that he can, but he is just crawling and still looking over his shoulder. Crawling. And I think he's confident, but we need a ticker on how many times Riddle looked over his shoulder today, but it's going to be like 7 in the finish shoot. 8.
And then nearly tripped, so maybe that's why. Gosh.
Oh, he's pumped. Great result from him. He's not bummed at all to lose that, right now at least, to lose that win from Gregory Barnaby, just a better athlete on the day. 2 minutes lost, but second place from Jamie Riddle. And Mark Dubrick, the Shark, doing his best, stoked with his finish here, coming across the finish line, third place here at the Ironman 70.3 Western Australia, the Asia Pac Championships. And that's a 1:14.17 to close off the day for Mark Dubrick. Big congratulations. These guys are stoked.
Did you get whether it was a negative split on the run for Barnaby or not? Have you worked that one out yet?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Or just at.
Yeah. Even an equal split is pretty good in these races, so equal or negative.
People say you can't actually do it, and those people are just ignorant. Yeah. You just got to be patient, and patience is hard. And Barnaby, and something, it probably wasn't a choice for Barnaby early. He didn't have the legs to go with Riddle, but let it come. And great performance by this man on screen. And, we giggle when we talk about the pain because we've all been there, but much respect to the race that athlete put out today to have a breakthrough, getting a hug and a handshake from Craig Alexander, and the champion's got to be icing on the cake too. Welcome back to Ironman 70.3 Western Australia Asia Pacific Championships in Bustleton. In the final few kilometers, Marta Sanchez just went through 18 kilometers, and she's got a comfortable lead at this point, as comfortable as anything can feel when you still have a few kilometers to go and you're real tired. But great performance from her today. Made some great efforts early on the bike ride, and obviously great kind of solo swim to put herself in position to have a great race in this group of 3 that she was with most of the day with Teresa Adam and Lade Wilms, and really put the effort in, even in transition. on the run course and got on that Hoka run course and really went to work and has continued to spread that gap all day. And she's not
working.
fading. Yeah.
And I think it must be really hard at this point on the run because you've just gone past the finish. So you've just gone past the turn for the finish line and you've still got to do one light final out and back. And whilst you know you're near the end, it's so heartbreaking or demoralizing to have to run past the finish, especially when you can hear like with the male pros finishing, and you know you've still got that little bit of an out and back to go, and you're just praying you can, praying it comes as soon as it can. But yeah, I think she's looking pretty good to take the win here in Bustleton. She's through 18 kilometers and has had over a minute lead at 14.5K, but it'll be interesting to see who is going to come through in second place.
It's come through 133, a lot of Wilms, but Anna Bergstrom just 6 seconds behind. So the fight for second place between Lotta Wilms and Anna Bergstrom is on for sure right now, and it's going to be pretty challenging for Lotta Wilms to have a response when Anna gets onto her shoulder, considering athletes run 4 minutes, almost 4 minutes faster than her to this point. But anything is possible, and Lotta Wilms is certainly an athlete that would be able to bring something special to the end of a race.
Yeah, that's right. She's certainly got the strength, and Lottie Wilms, just like as we said, just keeps going at that kind of same consistent pace. It's pretty steady throughout the race, throughout the whole race and duration, especially coming off sort of a very strong Ironman athlete. But yeah, I think Anna Bergstrom is certainly got the speed to take that second place if she hasn't already, I'm sure. And it'll just be then if Lottie Wilms will get the gap back to fourth place, Rochelle Hill. Here we go. We're going to get eyes on that's
so
Wilms.
You can see Anna right behind the cyclist behind Lotta.
So not taken yet.
Nope. Yeah. But she's right there, and she's in the right spot here. But you're definitely gonna see Lotta Wilms fight back a little bit. And Rochelle Hill has actually come through just 1 minute and 15 seconds behind Anna. So still some work to do for Lotte through that. I mean, just with 2K to go, probably not going to happen, but a lot of racing left. And we'll see this fight for second is certainly going to go to the finish.
Yeah, that's right. And then we need to work out the maths of, if we look at the Ironman Pro Series, Lottie Wilms is currently in 6th, and the other athletes racing today, Daniela Blymal, Hannah Berry, Els Visser, are certainly a little bit further back. So Lottie is the one that's going to gain the most by being able to add today's 70.3 result. She's also heading to Topor as well, so we'll be able to count both those races as we're watching. Anna just slowly reeling her in. Only a couple of seconds behind now.
Lotta is going to move into 4th place, most likely, if not 3rd, with that result, depending if Maya Stage Nielsen is able to improve a score as well. But she's looking great, and it certainly doesn't look like she's faded. And considering that Anna Bergstrom was 6 seconds behind 3 or 4 minutes ago, the pace isn't that desperately different, right? So, obviously with out and back, she knew she was coming, so she's putting an effort in to make it as hard as possible. And I think there's a misconception that the caught athlete is the athlete that is not likely to win. But if you pace it correctly, you make that athlete chasing. Oh, nope, she's giving it up. Never mind. She's giving her a high five if she catches her.
Yeah.
But that athlete that's chased often can have a little bit more energy in the bank. But again, she clearly has kind of given up the fact that she's going to get past. But she's going to try to sit on the shoulder as long as possible.
But I think you're right, Matt. Like we've seen, I think back to like Kona, Lucy Charles Barkley was passed and then would fight back and re-overtake. I think Kat Matthews is the same. She's had battles where someone's caught her from behind and you think that's it, and then she's fought back. So I think until that high five was taken, I don't think she could have fought back. And we will see how the rest of this race unfolds, and Marta going for the win when we come back after this break.
the woman that deserves our attention is the one that is going to get the win here today, and that is Marta Sanchez. She had fantastic swim by herself in third, bridged up to some very powerful athletes on the bike, Teresa Adam and Lotta Wilms, to get in that group of three, put some work in herself to make sure that pace was maintained throughout that bike ride, and then went to the front of the run as early as the Hoka run course. At kilometer 0 was Marta Sanchez, and here she is coming down the finish line. And your 2024 Ironman 70.3 Western Australia Asia Pacific champion is Marta Sanchez in a time of 4:06:38 with a 1:23 run. That's pretty quick around that course.
Yeah, that's right. And definitely a name I think we need to, again, a little bit like Gregory Barnaby, become a bit more, talk about a little bit more, give her a little bit more coverage. She's certainly got the races to back it up. And I think, I'm making the assumption she will do the Ironman Pro Series next year, and I think will feature fairly highly in that off the back of what she's achieved this year.
Absolutely. And we see, looks like most third place.
Maybe she has re-overtaken.
Well, it's possible. I'm going to assume that we missed the camera there, but we'll see as we get this next shot if Anna was able to hold on. It looks like she was. So we'll see this overhead shot. Who's coming through? That is Anna coming through, about to take that slight right-hand bend and then a hard right-hand turn onto the mat. And there she is, your second place finisher, fastest run to this point of the day is Anna Bergson coming through in second place. Fantastic overall race for her, but certainly run being the highlight with a 1:20:30, just a minute and 10 seconds in the end behind. And there's Lotta Wilms, your third place finisher, and again, the biggest mover on the day as far as the Pro Series goes. Lotta Wilms, fantastic result from her, and she's not going to lose many points. She's going to learn about, lose about 85 points.
Yeah, so for those of you interested, we've got the countdown timer up on the top of the screen. So you can see on the men's side, it's down to 346 points already. So it's 1 second for 1 point. So once the winner crosses the line, they get the 2,500, and then the clock starts counting down. So Lotta Wilms was about, 2,415 points that she will add to her Pro Series score. Anna Bergstrom, I think, and again, much like Marta Sanchez, I think a name that we are going to be seeing or hearing about a lot more in the years to come.
And your female pro champion, your Wahoo Element rival, split 1:23 for the run for Marta Sanchez. Obviously fantastic across the three disciplines, but it was that run that was able to separate her from the other two women that were in that front group with her off of the bike. But fantastic performance from her, and we see Anna getting congratulations from friends, family as well as Marta. And it's been a great race out here today, Laura.
It has indeed, and certainly setting the scene for the 70.3 World Championships in Topor in a couple of weeks. The Ironman Group acknowledges the traditional custodians, the Wadandi people on whose land we are living, and paying our respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Thank you for watching the Ironman 70.3 Western Australia Asia Pacific Championships. You can watch on-demand race replays in the United States and Canada on Outside Plus, and for those outside of North America, you can watch on-demand race replays by visiting theproseries.ironman.com.
This copyrighted broadcast of World Triathlon Corporation may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without express written consent of World Triathlon Corporation.